Next we're going to get our upper vertical fuselage and we're going to glue it down. We'll first just test fit it. We'll make sure that it sets down flush here. Once we're happy with the fit, we'll go ahead and glue it on. Again, we want to glue all along the top and the sides of the tabs as well. And get our level and make sure that we're flush on the nose. The horizontal fuselage can slide a little bit forward and backwards in the tabs to accommodate for that. Next we're going to install our other control horns, our tail control horns. We'll go ahead and fit them in. You can see on the elevator, the notch that's in the control horn fits right over the carbon fiber that's in the elevator. Now we're going to cut off this little piece that goes over the edge of the elevator here. I'm just going to use my scissors, and you can go ahead and round it off with your scissors or sandpaper or Dremel tool if you'd like to make it look nice. Next I'm going to just run another reinforcement bead along the control horns. Next I'm going to get my motor mount supports and my motor mount. I'm going to clean out the grooves that are cut for the motor mount supports with my hobby knife. Now they're going to fit in like such. Let's go ahead and glue them in. We want to put a generous bead of glue on both sides of the supports. And kind of pull apart the foam a little bit and slide it in there. remaining 3 motor mount supports. We should look like this when we're done. I'm going to get my ruler and I'm going to make sure that the supports are pressed back all the way. The ruler should set flush on the nose of the fuselage. Now you're going to want to glue in the motor mount. You may want to dry fit this first. It is a very tight fit into the motor mount supports. This is for durability as well as helping with precision flight. You may have to work it in there a little bit. Make sure that the motor mount is setting completely down onto the foam on the nose. Now we should look like this when we're done. We're going to go ahead and install our tail servos. First thing I'm going to do is center them. Again, I'm going to be using my servo tester. You can temporarily hook up your radio and center them that way as well. I'm going to dry fit the servos. The rudder servo goes into the rearward slot, and the servo wire will go through to the opposite side of the fuselage. The elevator servo, you want to route the wire the same way, so we'll bring it back up as you see here. Now both servo wires should be on the same side as our aileron servo on the bottom. Go ahead and glue these in. Next we're going to cut a hole through the fuselage, kind of right in between the 2 servos. Again, this is going to put our servo wires onto the same side as our aileron servo wire. Get our hobby knife. We just need to cut a hole that's just big enough to push the connector through. Go ahead and finish out the cut on the bottom. And I'm going to get a small flat blade screwdriver to push our cut foam out. Now it should look like this. Now we'll go ahead and we'll route our servo wires through to the bottom, as you see here. Now we're going to install our servo arm extensions on our rudder and elevator servos. These may not be required. If you have a computer radio that programs up over 100% travel, you may want to skip this step and you can install them later if you do require extra travel. We'll sound the control horn for better glue adhesion. Use CA to glue the extension on as shown. In addition to the CA, we're going to want to secure the extension onto the control horn with either shrink tube or thread. You can wrap the thread around and then soak it in CA, as I'm doing here. Next we're going to install our motor. You'll want the wires on the motor to come off on the opposite side of the fuselage of where the servo wires are. I'm going to go ahead and use my remaining servo mount screws to mount my motor. Your motor may come with screws, you may want to use those. Next we're going to want to install our speed controller. I'm going to install it right here. The first thing I'm going to do is scrape off a little bit of the ink. This will make it so that I can secure it down. I like to use hot glue to install it. You can use a piece of Velcro or two-sided tape. I'm just going to scrape on the print a little bit. And once I've worked it loose, I'll just take a small piece of tape, stick it down, and that'll help me pull up the ink. Go ahead and glue it down now. Next I'm going to hook up my motor to my speed controller. I'm going to route the speed controller receiver wire through the servo slot. Should look like this now. Next I'm going to cut a hole through the fuselage to bring my battery wire to the top of the fuselage. Once done, we should now have our ink coming up to the top of the fuselage as shown here. Next I'm going to install my receiver. You can see how I have it installed here. You'll just want to follow your manufacturer's instructions to install yours. I scraped off the paint and glued it similar to how I did the speed controller. Now I'm going to want to screw down my servo arms. They should be pointing directly up, as you see here. Next I'm going to trial fit my push rod for my rudder. The push rod for the rudder is slightly shorter than the elevator push rod. You can see that it's still a little bit too long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off about 1/8 an inch or so. Now I'm going to get my 6 push rod guides. You want to fit these onto the push rods. They might be a little tight, so we can go ahead and, with our hobby knife, ream them out just a little. You don't want to go too much on these, but you want a nice loose fit, but not sloppy. You can go ahead and ream out all 6 of these. There's 2 holes in each. Next we're going to install them as so. On the rudder you can see I'm on the inside hole of the push guides for all 3. Next we'll install our clevis on the end. Make sure your screw's backed out so they'll slide up on there. Clip it in to the hole, and we can make adjustments, sliding the clevis up and down, make sure that our rudder is centered correctly, and snug it down. Again, don't snug this too tight. Next I'm going to install the push rod guides. To do this, I'm going to just slide it up, as you see here. Just kind of set it on the vertical fuselage. I'm going to cut a straight line. I'm going to make sure this is straight up and down so that it doesn't cause any binding on the push rods. Just cut a slice just big enough for the push rod guide to go into. Temporarily install it in there, and we will continue with the other 2 in the same fashion. This one I just like to kind of center. Now that we have them all 3 cut and test fit, we'll go ahead and glue them in. Should have them installed. We're going to go ahead and make sure that our servo arm is straight on the elevator side. We're going to again test the length on it. Looks like I might be a little long again, so I'll go ahead and cut another approximately 1/8 of an inch off of there. Next we're going to slide our guides on. This one, the first one will be on the inner hole, and the second 2 will be on the outer hole. Go ahead and install our clevis. install our guides in the same manner. Front one will go a little bit forward of the first one for the rudder side. Now one thing you'll notice on the back side, the last guide will actually go into the horizontal fuselage towards the rear, as you see here. The other two will actually go into the vertical fuselage, similar to the rudder side. Once we're satisfied, we'll go ahead and glue them in. Next, we're going to hinge the bottom part of our rudder. So we're going to get our Blenderm tape, same way we hinged our other surfaces. I'm going to get a screwdriver here, and I'm going to press the tape into the hinge line to make sure that the adhesive on the backside tape is sticking to the adhesive on the front side tape. Now I'll go ahead and press it down really good. Final step is we're going to get our EPP SFGs. We're going to go ahead and take those out of the phone. We should have a total of 6 of these. The first 4 go to the wing, and the last 2 actually go to the elevator. So you have 2 different wing sizes. The larger ones go to the inside, and the smaller ones on the outside. Go ahead and glue these in now. We'll start with the wing. Just run a small bead of glue on the inside edges of the SFG. Again, this is one of the smaller ones for the wings. It goes on the outside. Now we'll glue the larger one in here. And we'll go ahead and repeat for the other side of the wing. Now we'll go ahead and glue in the tail. And that completes assembly of the Wicked Jack 55.